Hello and welcome to our webinar on Making Fluent and Flexible Calculators program. We know that time in school is really precious, so thank you for giving up your time and joining us here for this half-an-hour session just to give you an overview and an introduction to the program. The two presenters today, so I am Charlie Harbour. I'm one of the Maths advisors at Hearts for Learning Education, and I'm joined by Jill Shearsby, she's just waving at you, Jill Shearsby-Fox, who's also a Maths advisor at HFL Education. We are in the town hall settings of Teams, so in that way you'll notice that you've been muted as you've come into the room. This is just so that we can get through the content as quickly as we can. If you've got any questions or comments, you can pop any comments you have in the chat bar up at the top of your screen up here. If you have any questions that you would like answering, please pop them in the Q&A tab. That just means that they won't get lost in the stream of chat if we get a lot of chat moving through. Also, we will be having a question and answer session at the end of today. So if you want to pop them into the button at the top, you can, or you can hold on to them at the end, and then what we'll do is ask you to turn your mic on and come on stage, and then you can ask your question more directly to us. I hope that's all okay, and we're ready to go. So firstly, who's who? So HFL Education, who I work for, and so does Jill, is, if you've never heard of us, we are the largest not-for-profit school improvement company in the UK. And we believe that every young person, through access to great education, should be able to realise their potential, regardless of where they live, their backgrounds or their circumstances. And we are the people who have developed the Making Fluent and Flexible Calculators programme over a number of years in both primary and secondary settings. The Policy Institute at King's College London is part of the Faculty of Social Science and Public Policy. Their research draws on many disciplines and methods, making use of skills, expertise and resources of not only the Institute, but the university and its wider network too. And their role in this programme is to be our external evaluator. The EEF, as you know, are an independent charity dedicated to breaking the link between family income and educational achievement. They do this by supporting schools, colleges, and earlier settings to improve teaching and learning through better use of evidence, and they are the kind of people who are funding and guiding this evaluation. Over the next few slides, I'm going to walk you through some of the key information relating to the purpose, logistics, and administration of the programme. I haven't got time to go through them in great detail, but more details will be available in the school information sheet, which you will receive if you submit an expression of interest form, details of which we have on the final slide today. Following my section, Jill will take over and she will provide some additional information on what the programme actually is and the resources, training support that you will get access to. So to dive straight in there, I'm going to go through a very brief summary of the project in 6 small bites. So the focus of the programme is to enhance students' foundational mental calculation strategies, and this in turn boosts their confidence and also reduces the cognitive load for the pupils when they are dealing with more complex calculations. Our own internal data when we ran this programme over the past 4 to 5 years shows that using the programme has had significant improvement on lower prior retaining Key Stage 3 students' mental math skills, and in turn their confidence and their enjoyment of maths. The evaluation goal of the programme is obviously to determine if this intervention programme improves maths attainment among lower prior retaining Year 7 students. And the opportunity that we're discussing today is that schools that receive training, resources and support to implement the programme. And that bit that I've underlined on that slide is really, really important. So the schools that will receive the training and resources and support, this programme is designed to run alongside your Key Stage 3 maths curriculum. So there will only be a loss of a small amount of teaching time to implement the programme. So hopefully the Key Stage 3 curriculum can still run as designed in your school alongside it, which we feel is an incredibly important point. Again, another important snapshot point is that the program can be taught by math specialists, non-specialists, and also higher level teaching assistants because it is so fully resourced. There is so much support around this program that we believe it can be delivered by a variety of different members of your staff. And we are seeking the involvement of 120 schools. And as I've said there, this is kind of our tagline. This is a great chance for schools to enhance maths teaching strategies and support students' progress in mental maths. So I'll just give you a moment to read through this slide because I don't want to kind of spend just reading out loud slides. That's not great. And then I just want to pick up on two elements that I've underlined on the slide. So I'll just give you a second to have a read through as to who can take part in the trial. So just to pick up on the two things that I know are vitally important, and I've underlined them on the slide. So what do we actually mean by low prior retaining? So within the programme, it has been identified that low prior retaining refers to students who have been identified by the schools as being low prior retaining compared to their peers. And schools can identify these groups using their own usual school systems. And the other bit that I've underlined there is that who are taught regularly as a group. So these are a group of students who have maths lessons together regularly after the October half term in 2025. This may be a group of students allocated to a low set, if you set students by prior attainment, or it could be a group of identified students within a wider mixed ability class, but have at least 3 sessions separate from the wider class as an intervention group. And if you've got any further questions on who can take part, because I know that's an area of interest, concern, please do just pop them either in the question and answer tab at the top or hold them till we get to the question and answer session at the end. So the impact of the programme is going to be evaluated through randomised controlled trial, which is a common evaluation method employed by the EEF. The randomisation won't be led by us, it will be led by the Policy Institute, King's College London, and schools who agree to participate in the evaluation will be randomly allocated to either the treatment group, they're the schools who will receive the training and deliver the programme, or the control group, schools who will not receive the training and will not deliver the programme, but will assist in data collection. If you are a control group school, you will be paid £500 as a thank you for completing the evaluation activities, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So you will find out which group you have been randomly assigned to by King's College in either July 2025 or September 2025, depending on the date that you sign up. Now, what does the programme involve? So if you are assigned to be a treatment school, this is a snapshot of the timeline that will be happening. And you can see it starts in October 2025, where at least 2 members of staff will need to attend 2 online training sessions, which will happen across October and November 2025. Straight after the first training session, staff will have access to a massive comprehensive suite of online resources, which includes, amongst other things, downloadable resources to support teaching, including ready-to-use teaching PowerPoints, a range of whole class and independent practice resources, additional training resources to support teaching, including some additional videos that discuss some of the elements in a little bit more detail, and also some modelling videos because we follow a concrete pictorial abstract approach of the teaching of the mathematics that could be used within the teaching or could be used by whoever is delivering the programme to support them, kind of just their rehearsing before they teach live to the class. I do need to stress there are additional evaluation activities throughout the programme that will be provided by King's College London, and a more detailed timeline will be provided to schools who complete an expression of interest form. Okay, so there you can see, just as I say, just the snapshot if you are allocated to the treatment group. What do all schools need to do? the information on there. So communicating obviously with KCL and with ourselves, sharing class lists that will be only to King's College London. And again, the evaluation assessments, they will be to King's College London. So complete staff surveys, King's College London, and take part in staff interviews. And only a small selection of schools will be required to do. And again, that will be with King's College London. And what do you receive? Again, we'll go into a little bit more of the benefits in a moment, but just to let you know that all schools will receive student scores from the assessment activities that are undertaken by King's College London, and they will be administered by the independent assessors, that is King's College London, in the summer term of 2026. And then everyone will get a share of the results at the end of the project, which is identified as July 2026. So a little bit more interesting beyond that is what are the benefits for my school participating in this trial, including costs. So let's be upfront and open about that. Treatment school benefits, so there is a cost involved. It costs £150 if you are randomly selected to be a treatment school, which represents a significant reduction on the usual price of the programme, which is £450. And you can see there, bullet pointed again, access, as I said, to this huge range of quality CPD, including the live training and access to the large online virtual platform that we have for this. For 2 members of staff, and it'll be delivered by project advisors from the HFL Maths team. Ongoing support throughout the programme. So there will be drop-ins if you are a treatment school, so you can drop in and have a quick chat to one of the advisors about how things are going, or if you want to clarify or ask any questions. And there will also be specific diagnostic assessment from HFL, which will help you identify which areas to focus on and kind of fine-tune, you know, where the teaching emphasis needs to be in the programme. So it is bespoke to your class based on your individuals, rather than it being very generic across a whole, you know, this is what all low attaining year 7 students suffer. What we do is we provide a diagnostic assessment so you can fine tune and refine it to your specific setting and your specific students. If you are a control school, then you will still play an important part in strengthening the evidence base on how to support students with low prior attainment in maths. And this will help colleagues across the country to improve teaching and learning, particularly for closing the gaps in those low prior attaining students in year 7, so that we get them set up on a much more successful trajectory right from the start of their Key Stage 3 experiences. And you will receive a £500 payment to help you cover completing the evaluation tasks from King's College London. And also you will be guaranteed a place on a future round of the programme.
Do I ask you? No.
Okay.
That's it.
How will the data be used? Again, there's just a very brief summary there on the slides for you, and more information on data protection practices and how we will actually, what data we will be collecting from you specifically will be provided when you complete an expression of interest form. And I just want to say right up front, if you do complete an expression in interest form, that does not indicate any level of commitment at all. It simply triggers more information for you to review.
So we're now going to pass over to myself, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the programme and give you a bit more information about it. So let me just go back a slide. We've got this quote here, and this was, I saw this last summer. We'll go all the way down to the basics and we'll build your way back up. And this was actually a quote from a famous Olympian gymnastics, who's sometimes known as the GOAT, the greatest of all times. It was actually Simone Biles who said this, and she actually said it after she left the Tokyo Olympics in 2021, and people thought that she may never return. But what she said, and it's quoted from her documentary, if anybody's seen it on Netflix, that she said actually what she had to do, she had to go right back to the basics to relearn those basics so she then could get back up to the standard that she knew she was capable of. And we have a bit of that philosophy when we talk about our programme. We believe that we need to take children right back to the basics, get them really secure with that, so we can then build them back up again. We know that success breeds success, and success also breeds confidence. We also know that maths is hierarchical. So children start by learning their counting, then we go into additive reasoning, then we go into our multiplicative reasoning, then we go into sort of more proportional reasoning and into then functional mathematics. And if we think of that hierarchically, we think about early years being our counting. Key stage 1 and key stage 2, we're doing the additive reasoning and introducing the multiplicative reasoning. We introduce a little bit of proportional understanding at the end of key stage 2, but there's a lot of that within the key stage 3 curriculum, as is the functional mathematics. And we know that actually if there's gaps in this learning along the way, it can cause real issues. Now, it doesn't mean that children can't access new learning, but what we know is it means that they access that new learning with holes in their prior knowledge, so they limit their understanding. So let's just have a little look at this with an example. So you can see here on the screen that if we wanted to find the value of x in the equation there, 4x plus 7 equals 25 minus 2x, we have to take that right back. And the first thing they have to really truly understand is what the equals signs means. And it means the same as. And that goes right back to early learning in sort of key stage 1. We would hope that they get that learning there. They also need to understand what the symbols mean, the addition and subtraction, and they also possibly have to have some strategies for the calculating. Actually, to solve that, a simple calculation is that they have to do 25 take away 7 if they rearrange the equation. Now, just doing that, you may see fingers coming out with some lower prior attaining students, and that's what we've noticed as well. We'd also need to work out our x. If we rearrange the equation, we'd end up with 6x equals 18. They need to understand that the 6x means 6 times x, and they need to then call on their multiplication facts of 18 divided by 6 to work out the value of x. So this is all learning that they need to have to be able to then solve this more complex equation. All learning that really isn't that complicated. 25 take away 7, 18 divided by 6. This is all quite simple arithmetic. Finally, we might need to know some rules like our BIDMAS and the order of our calculations. We also need to recognise the inverse relationship when we perhaps want to rearrange equations. And actually children have been doing that for ages. I know when I teach children and we talk about algebra, they go into panic and I go, well, you've been doing algebra since you were 3. Something plus box equals 5. We know that box or that unknown is just replaced by that letter X, but we know it can cause issues with children. But if we don't have some of these basics, or these basics are taking so much cognitive load, as Charlie has already mentioned, that actually it becomes really difficult. And actually, some of the research done by both Ofsted and Nuffield look at some of that understanding, and there's a really nice quote here taken from the 2003 Coordinating Mathematical Success Study that Ofsted did in 2023, where it talks about the fact that actually we need to possibly slow down learning a little bit, because actually if we just plough on through new content, actually learning isn't secured and those foundations become really unstable, and new learning also becomes unstable or becomes very procedural and therefore forgettable, or children are trying to just remember too many things, and that's too tricky. They need to make those connections. And this is why we focus on the basics. We know that children right the way across our education have inefficient strategies. Fingers are still being used right the way up to children doing GCSE mathematics, and that can cause real issues. We also know that there can be a massive over-reliance on a single strategy, and from the research that we've done, and Charlie and I work both across primary and secondary, we notice that actually the older the children get, the more single strategy users they tend to become. An awful lot of formal written methods, even for simple calculations like our 25 take away 7 in my last example. Many children, particularly who struggle with maths, would do that perhaps using a formal written method and then use their fingers as well. We also know that this therefore causes lots of cognitive overload, and actually trying to get through all the steps of more complex mathematics just becomes really, really tiring, and therefore that attitudes towards mathematics can become really, really negative, and we know that it can become a negative downward spiral for those children. We also know that actually for secondary maths teachers, a lot of this learning is unfamiliar because it should be secured at primary. So even though you are excellent mathematicians as maths teachers in secondary schools, some of this teaching seems quite alien because it should have been secured in primary, but it hasn't. And this is why we've created a comprehensive set of resources that go along with this programme. And we also know that children need lots of practice, lots of overlearning. And again, in a very full curriculum, that's really tricky. So I've got a calculation here that I'd just like you to perhaps have a go at solving. If you've got a piece of paper to hand, you could perhaps jot it down. But while you're solving it, I'd like you to think about what basic or foundational knowledge are you calling upon to be able to get the answer to this sort of five-digit calculation. So we're looking at a fairly big number range, thinking about our 82,916 and our 58,767. But actually, are you worried about those numbers, or are you actually thinking about the 6 plus 7, the 1 plus 6 in those place value columns? Now, I've done this in the past and I don't give the answer and people get really frustrated. So there is the answer. I hope I've calculated it correctly. But I'm now going to put up here a list of strategies, a list of different ways that you could solve those place value columns within that calculation. So, for example, in that 6 ones add 7 ones, you might have used your doubles knowledge or your near doubles. You might have pulled on the fact that you know that double 6 is 12, so therefore 6 plus 7 is 12 and 1 more. Thinking about the hundreds column with the 9 hundreds add 7 hundreds. You might have gone, well, I'll do 10 add 7 and take 1 away, and that makes 16. And then I know I need to follow the procedures of a formal written method. I don't actually write 16 in my answer. I do my regrouping or my carrying, depending on what vocabulary you use. So actually, to solve our more complex mathematics, if those foundational facts aren't secure or those foundational strategies aren't secure, again, cognitive load can be overwhelming. And you may begin to see things like we've seen as we've gone round on our travels. You'll notice here that there's all sorts of different strategies being used. In that top left-hand corner, that was an example of a year 7 student solving a calculation, and you may notice the dots. And actually, the only way the child could do 7 add 5 was to draw 7 dots, draw 5 dots, and then count them all. That's a very inefficient and time-consuming strategy. For the other place value columns in that calculations, they had enough fingers, so they didn't need to draw dots, but they used their fingers. We may see some really inefficient use of mark making or writing out numbers, which is painful to watch as a teacher. And actually, children are really good at hiding this. They don't let you see these types of marks, so you may not notice that they're there. Or you may see examples like on the middle and to the right hand side of the children using the same strategy for every calculation, whether that is appropriate or not. I know it's not very big, but on the column subtraction in the middle piece of paper, you will see things like 99 plus 2 added in a formal written method. So we know this happens. We also know from looking at research from places like the Nuffield Foundation that actually children's prior attainment in maths is the biggest predictor of future attainment. And very sadly, we know that as children start to not reach expected standards through Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2, the probability is they won't reach expected standards at the end of Key Stage 4. They won't get that grade 4 or grade 5 at GCSE. And actually, as a profession, we're not very good at closing those gaps with students and actually getting children who were at lower prior attainment back to expected standard, particularly in mathematics. It's one of the subjects that we are actually the poorest at. So for this programme, we've drawn on lots of, as we were writing it, drawn on lots of evidence. The EEF did some research into supporting SEND pupils in mainstream schools. And from that, they talk about actually what's good for SEND is good for all. They also talk that there's no silver bullet, and we believe strongly in that, but there is good pedagogy. And they talk about the 5-a-day approach, which pulls on those things on the screen there, the explicit instruction, exposing the metacognition and the cognition, using technology, being flexible with our groupings and providing scaffolding. And it's all this that we've drawn on for the programme. So as Charlie has already mentioned, we start with the very explicit diagnostic assessment to help identify gaps. We then have a really precise teaching approach, which you do in little bite-sized chunks so you can keep your curriculum running over. And then we have a practice that little and often is the practice approach. If any of you learn musical instrument, that type of thing, we practice 5-10 minutes every day, so we get better and better and better at it. We grow in confidence. So in the teach, we pull on 3 of the 5-a-day approaches, the explicit instruction, the cognitive and metacognitive strategies, and provide lots of scaffolding. We scaffold through using practical resources, we scaffold through supporting the language, because actually what we need the children to do is trust the strategies and trust the models. We need to scaffold the talk, we need to make connections, and we also need to support the children in making preferences. When is it a good idea to do something? Use a strategy. When is it not a good idea to use a strategy? And we explicitly teach both. These are the calculation strategies that we have teaching resources for and that we encourage people to include in the programme. Now, you don't necessarily cover all of these within the programme. You pick the ones that are most appropriate for your children. You make it bespoke for the children in your school. And there's some snapshots there of some of the very small selection of the resources that are available to you. And these come both as sort of documents that you can read and interpret, and also as PowerPoint slides that you can use in your classroom. We then also, once you've done some teach, we ask you then to do practice. And it goes in this cycle of teach, practice, teach, practice. So the children get time to rehearse. And that rehearsal includes the models, it includes the language, we provide scaffolds for that as well. We really focus on the children making connections, because we know if we want to reduce cognitive load, we need to get children to make links in their learning. And the practice can be in the form of whole class practice, or it can be in the form of paired or individual. So that's where the flexible grouping comes into here. And again, the suite of resources for the practice is provided as part of the programme. And we also have pick up and go plans, which Charlie's just going to very briefly tell you about.
So the pick up and go plans, as we said, there's a huge range of resources, teaching support. So teachers have autonomy. You can either decide to craft your own pathway through using all of the resources. Alternatively, if it's a non-math specialist or maybe a higher level teaching assistant who you kind of could deliver this program, then we also have pick up and go plans, basically where we've taken each one of those mental strategies that we talk about and put them into a complete PowerPoint teaching sequence. So everything is detailed in there in order, so they can kind of run it through with the, in the simplest way possible for them, in a kind of very time efficient way. The other benefit to the using of the pick up and go plans is if you do get changing staffing personnel throughout the academic year, you can't always guarantee that everyone's going to stay, or you have, teachers coming and going or supply teachers in place, then the pick up and go plans ensure that consistency, because they, it is that kind of set PowerPoint slideshow that you just work your way through. on a very regular basis. And it says, again, that includes whole class teaching, whole class practice, fluency, slides, and also independent practice. And all of those are clearly demarcated in these pick up and go plans. I am just very conscious of the time as well. And just on the screen here is some of the notes that we've gathered from teachers who have been involved in the project, as I say, of the number of years that we've been running it. And we've gathered them in our own exit interviews, and now King's College London will be gathering this kind of information, looking for the voice of teachers or whoever has been delivering the programme. How do they feel it has impacted the students, as well as, you know, in their attainment, but also in their attitudes and beliefs around mathematics. So, as we say, please be involved, please help us make a difference. As I just wanted to stress, we are not anti-counting on fingers. We're not. Even in our most tired moments, we count on our fingers sometimes. But what we are trying to do is give students who the only option they have is counting on their fingers, those children who are trapped, who are using so much cognitive load just to solve 6 + 7, you know, and it's distracting them from those most complex. We want to give them other opportunities, other strategies to help them compact up their mathematics and release that cognitive space so that they can deal with the mathematics that they should be dealing with at Key Stage 3. So there are a number of options on the screen here. There's a QR code at the top there. You can go to the project webpage where you'll find more information, a little bit more detail about us, HFL Education, and also some references to some blogs and things like that if you want to read a little bit further about that. There's also the QR code further down there is the expression of interest form. As I say, it is not, there's no commitment. If you just click on that, all it does is trigger more information to you to find out more about the programme. So at that point, I would like to just pause and thank you for your time. If you do need to leave us at the moment, thank you for staying with us for the half an hour. But I'd also like, if you have a question, I'd like you to, can you indicate that on the chat bar or by turning on your mic and coming on screen to ask us more directly if you have any questions concerning this programme.
We did get one question in the Q&A, Charlie. So we've been asked, oh, actually, we've got a couple more, actually. So can the intervention group be made up of a couple of smaller groups who are taught separately? Our colleague Paul has been manning the chat, and I know he's responded, and we possibly would need to check with KCL, who are evaluators. But as long as a group of students are taught at least sort of 3 times a week together as a group, they probably can do it. We just need to double check with KCL. What I would suggest that you do, if that's the case, is do fill out an expression of interest, and we can then just double check them things. But as long as the group are taught at least 3 times a week together, and that group may be small, it might only be 2 or 3 students. And if you perhaps have 2 or 3 intervention groups in your year 7, you can have as many classes in your school take part in the trial, because if you get put in the treatment group, you could do it with 5 or 6 classes if you wanted to. It wouldn't matter. So if you had, say, 4 intervention groups with 3 children in each group and they were taught 3 times a week together, that would be okay, which I think makes sense, but it's getting towards the end of the day.
The other question there is talking about different vocabulary. We do appreciate that there is different vocabulary used across the country for different methods and different strategies. So yes, of course, you know, adapting your vocabularies just to ensure that those students get a smoother pathway through would be absolutely ideal. I would just ask, you know, that just possibly to check with an project advisor that actually your language actually does match what we are talking about, because we know there can be slight kind of nuances in vocabulary around mathematics. But yes, we're not wedded to the strict vocabulary on that we're labeling the strategies by, because there is variation across the country around that.
And the PowerPoint resources obviously come as PowerPoint, so you could edit some of the vocabulary as long as you're consistent, and as Charlie says, you're using the strategies are the same, just have a different title. That's fine. We've just had one more question. Could we do the intervention at time outside of the maths lesson? The short answer to that is not really, because you just run it alongside your maths lesson. You can carry on with the Key Stage 3 curriculum, and it depending on how regularly form time was, but really you can do the intervention and you can do your Key Stage 3 teaching in your maths lessons, because the way it is designed, you can run it, and we've had a number of secondary schools do that quite successfully. I think we might have had another question in the chat. I'm just going to
it says,
share.
So we've got Mrs. Spencer. Is it only 2 teachers who can do the training, or at least 2?
At least 2.
It's at least 2. And the reason why we said 2 is just for security, in case one teacher leaves, so that we have that consistency of knowledge within the school if you're in the treatment group. So we have that kind of pathway of knowledge continues, and those children can still receive the program as it's designed, but it's at least 2. And as we say, there's the 2 online training sessions, but then there's also a huge amount that's on the VLE, so the virtual learning environment. So, you can access and share with your colleagues as you see fit.
As Paul's put in the chat, if you want more than 2, that's absolutely fine. The training, so the first training session is a 2-hour webinar, which sort of talks through all the diagnostic assessments and what you need to do. The other session is 4 hours, and there's a 4-hour block of time that you do it in, but some of it is live and some of it you'll get directed to go and look at something on the learning platform, the e-learning side of things, but it's a 4-hour. So there's 1 2-hour and 1 4-hour session, but then there is a whole load of e-learning that you can go and dip in and out of as you need as well, which you have available to you for the whole programme. So hopefully that's answered the training question as well.
Just checking on the chat. Is there anything else coming in?
So if you have got any more questions, please do put them in the chat. Charlie and I will hang around for a few more minutes. But if you have everything you need and you need to scoot off, then please do. Thank you, as Charlie said, so much for joining us. We do really appreciate it. And if you want to know more, then either check out our website or fill in an expression of interest form, and we'll send you some further information. Good question. There is a deadline to express interest, in the fact that you need to express interest, then we need to send you a whole load of paperwork that you need to read through, check, sign, and send back to us. And it will be a first come, first serve. So not for the expression of interest, but what we call our consent form. So once you've got the expression of interest, once you send us an expression of interest, we'll then send you all the relevant paperwork. If you would like to be considered for the programme, then you fill out that and sign it back to us, and then you are officially signed up. But we have got 120 cut off, so the quicker you get it back to us, the more likely you are to get on the trial. But we will have the final cut-off will be sort of mid-September, but we're hoping that we'll have 120 schools by the first randomisation point in July. So the quicker you can get it back to us, the more likely you are to definitely have a place. Good question. It's about, will we get the slide set sent to us? What we're going to do is we're going to put the record.
Serious questions, Jill.
They're in the chat. We are going to put this recording of this session on our website, which is the top QR code that you can see at the minute. So if you need to revisit anything, go to our website, and this recording will be on the website. So you can then you can click through us quickly and find the right bit that you want.
Or slow us down if I talk too quickly at the start.
Yeah, either way.
Oh, thank you, Claire.
Yes.
That's really nice.
I think that's it for questions. So should we end the event?
I was just thinking the same. I'll just end the
Okay.
event now. Thank you for those who are attending.
Oh, brilliant. I'm glad it sounds like it would help your year sevens. Once you've got the programme, you could always run it once they're in year 8.
Yeah.
We've run it right the way up to year 10, so we know it works wherever it's needed, to be honest with you. That's how it's designed, but the trial is for year sevens.
Well, I'm going to end the event now, so if there's no further questions, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to hearing your receiving your expression of interest forms. Thank you very much.